In this demonstration, we're now going to go about configuring an application gateway in the Azure portal. In the portal, much like with the traditional load balancer we configured, go ahead and select Create a Resource, select Networking, and you'll find App Gateway just below Load Balancer there. Now we need to put in our basic settings, so let's give it a name, followed by our tier. So you've got Standard and then WAF, which stands for Web Application Firewall. Choose your SKU size depending on the traffic you're expecting, followed by the instance count. The minimum recommended for production workloads is always 2 to ensure high availability. Select your subscription and select your resource group. One thing we need to take note of though is our location. In this case, we're selecting North Central US. It has to be in the same location as our virtual network and public IP address. So go ahead and select OK. And now we choose some of the more specific settings around our network. So if we choose our virtual network, we'll choose our SL70533-portal that we've been using. And notice that it only gives me the option of subnet B, and this is because we already have systems configured in subnet A, and it has to be in its own subnet. We then choose our IP address type, so we can have public or private again, and if we want to choose our public IP address, we select it here, and we can go ahead and create a brand new public IP address directly from that screen. Our listener configuration, whether it's HTTP traffic or HTTPS, and again, we have the option of selecting whether we want to use the web application firewall, but we need to obviously select that tier for that to happen. And with that, simply select OK. Confirm the summary, select OK again. Okay, and after a while, if everything's successful, you'll see your application gateway completed and listed on the application gateways. It does take a while. It can take, 15 plus minutes for this to provision. And if we go into this gateway that's provisioned, you'll see this one is actually still updating. So it's still provisioning some of the configuration there. On the screen, you'll get the overview, much like with any Azure service. There is a monitoring pane. You can scroll down. You can see the throughput for the past hour directly on the screen. On the left-hand side, I'll just point out a few configuration areas that are worth noting. One, you can turn on your web application firewall later on if you wish. You can add your backend pools in this location. So I go to backend pools. This is where I can add those. I've got HTTP settings. So I mentioned this is a layer 7 load balancer and gives us some of that extra functionality. So this is where, for example, in this HTTP setting, I can go in there and I can actually turn on cookie-based affinity for HTTP just by selecting this box on the screen. And so there's a number of settings there. If we scroll further down again, you've got your listeners, your rules, and your health probes. All of that is configurable from this section in the Azure portal. And with that, this concludes this demonstration, and hopefully that gives you some insight into how to create and configure your application gateway.